Hello and welcome to the PowerFish podcast. I'm Fish.
And I'm Ben. Today, we talked about how it is impossible for us to identify what is objective truth, and you'll find out why. Astrology and why it's freaking stupid, and how to meditate. Let's get into it. So I heard this super interesting tidbit. I can't remember who it was from. It was actually I think it was from a Christian who brought up this thing about potentially why atheism is wrong.
Yeah.
And this is some big brain stuff, like way outside the box thinking.
Okay.
I never would have conceived this. So evolution, right?
Got it.
It's a thing. We started from a single-celled organism that could replicate itself with slight mutations, and those slight mutations were either lived or were killed off based on natural selection for hundreds of millions of years until now. So, based on natural selection and evolution, we evolved in a way that is optimal for reproduction, right?
Fair
and
enough.
survive. The way to do that is by not dying. So all of our traits that we've gathered are for not dying purposes.
Yeah.
So
Fairly reasonable, I'd say.
right. So this idea that this guy had, which is just so fascinating. It's just indisputable, if you ask me. Is so our reasoning ability, our logic ability seems right to us. 2 + 2 = 4.
Mm-hmm.
That is just intuitively correct because we have the ability to, conduct reasoning and logic and apply it to that, and it works.
Mm.
But what if our brains, if evolution is true, what if our brains evolved not to be able to decipher what's true, but what our brains evolved to decipher what is the best at keeping us alive, not what is true. So our ability to logically reason what we think is true could be we just think 2 + 2 = 4 because that's how we've evolved so that we survive. And I don't mean 2 + 2 = 4 in a math sense. I mean 2 + 2 is 4 in a we see something that we think is an objective truth sense.
Yeah.
It's just 2 + 2 = 4 is used as a metaphor. But if our brains evolved to be able to do logical reasoning in a way that keeps us alive, not in a way that helps us identify what is something that's literally true or not, how anything really? How can we be certain of anything?
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So in the case of, let's just take mathematics as an example. I think if we're talking about undisputed facts, if you have a thing and you get another thing, you have two things. Now, the idea of 1 and 1 and 2 is a man-made concept, but it's also just a representation of fact, I would say. Would you agree with that?
That 1 and 1 = 2.
Yeah. The name that we associate with it is man-made. The fact that we're
mathematics as a whole is a construct.
Yeah. But physical thing 1 and physical thing 2, there are two physical things. If I'm Ooga Booga Caveman, right, and I've got a berry, right, and I've got another berry, I can eat two berries on separate occasions. But if I have one berry, I can only eat that one time.
Right.
That's
And our evolution, we evolved the ability to count to be able to ration
right.
effectively, which is true. But, but here's the thing. We will obviously would have evolved the ability of rationing for the sake of survival,
right,
and the survival of others. I'm trying to think of an example of how, like, it is the case that things we believe that are true are beneficial to us. If we know something's true or false, it's beneficial to us. But it's also the case that if we believe things are true that we know are false, they can be beneficial to us. For example, if you literally believe that you don't have cancer, you have a better chance of fighting cancer than if you don't believe you're gonna make it.
This was a topic we actually talked about a month or two ago, about maybe.
Oh, yeah, like factual truths and functional truths.
Right. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of along those lines. I don't know. I think
Because that would be supportive in the fact that our brains evolved, our brains evolving in a way that if we believe it, dude, this is so hard for me to articulate. If our brains evolved in a way that our logic and reasoning was constructed in a way that is most beneficial for our survival, rather than constructed in a way that identifies what is literally true or not, that would be supportive. I think I'm making this connection correctly to that. Our ability to logically reason and believe something is true, aiding our literal physical state, even though it's false. It's not literally true. That is, I think, supportive of the idea that our brains evolved in that way. Our brains evolved to what we think is true may not literally be true, but it's best for our survival.
So what's a grander example of that then?
That's what I'm struggling to think of right now. It's hard for me to grasp. And the thing is, would we even know if our brains evolved and were constructed in a way to where our logical reasoning and what we believe is true may not literally be true, because the only reason we're reasoning in that way is because we were evolved to, and we're evolved to think that that's true. We would never know if something's actually false.
I mean,
because our brains were not literally we're not constructed to know that.
I mean, that's
because it's not best for our survival.
That's technically true, but also that just feels to me, we've been bringing this up quite a bit, like the free will, in my opinion, cop-out answer of like, well, if you free will, you never had it, you don't know anything, blah, 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 whatever that canned response is. It feels like that almost to an extent where it's just like, if I were to try to dispute that, I were to say, no, we base our understanding on objective fact. It's just like, well, you wouldn't know. It makes it kind of, you can't disprove it.
Right. Yeah. The evidence is there for the evidence is there for us not having free will, but if we do, like, what is there to say yeah, it's an indisputable thing. You can say that, but like,
Yeah.
where does that really? You can say you have free will, but where does that really get you? Or even both ways. You could say you have no free will or free will. Where does it really get you?
Right.
Maybe nowhere.
But as far as this topic goes, I don't know. I just can't think of anything specific. Like, humans lie to themselves. That's true. We know that. We have a tendency to try our damnedest to believe things that we want to be true in a lot of ways. But I don't know if we could make that true on like a species scale. What in our world do we lie to ourselves about that is functionally best for us to be not true?
But that's the thing. We wouldn't. This goes above the level of just telling ourselves something that we may know not to be true, just for the sake of it being beneficial to us. This goes above that. This goes to things that we think are literally, in every sense of the word, true, but might not be, because our brains haven't evolved the ability to discern that. Because we think that only because that's how we've evolved, because thinking that has led to our survival, and not thinking that, like by way of natural selection, the things that don't work for us, I mean, they've died off. That's how it works. So, for example, again, using math as just a metaphor here, not literally, all the people that had the genetic mutation of 2 + 2 is 5 might have died off.
Yeah.
Even though 2 + 2 + 5 might have been the literal, real, physical, metaphysical truth, but it wasn't best for our survival. So all the ones that thought 2 + 2 is 4 are alive. And now, because of that, we all think that is true.
Let me run this by you. Let me just set this down for you, and you could pick it up at your leisurely. So let me put it in an example like this, and maybe this isn't helpful. So we can't know what we don't know, but we can know what people in the past didn't know. So, like, if you got a group of people from the 10th century or so, I don't know, and they know that if you spend too much time outside in the sunlight, you're gonna die early, and they just chalk it up to the sun's big mad, right? And we know
The sun
now,
god.
yeah, the sun god, big mad, and we know now that there's cancer and all kinds of skin conditions that can lead to a premature death because of that. But at the same time, though, their belief is still rooted in reality. It's just
The wrong mechanism.
yeah. I don't know if that's a helpful comparison, but it's the one I thought of. Like, they didn't know what was going on, but their functional, non-factual functional belief in this hypothetical situation helped them to not die early and therefore survive longer to reproduce. And that's, yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. So you're kind of saying, God, this is a tough thing to articulate here. This is a tough topic to translate thoughts to words. So you're saying the evolution did its job by keeping us alive, because that's all evolution's job. That's all it knows how to do. But what that doesn't entail is the details of why that is happening, why you are dying.
Yeah.
So let's say, right, okay, so evolution, don't stand in sun for too long equals die.
Yeah.
Let's take that example. Let's say the person who had the genetic mutation I don't know if I can I don't know if I can somehow stick with this example.
Is it a genetic mutation or is it just an idea passed down? Is there a genetic component to that? I mean, granted, yeah, if people that stepson die, stepson.
That's why I said I don't know if I can stick with the son dying example. Because something like people that grew like our eyebrows.
Yeah.
Our eyebrows exist because tens of thousands and generations of hunters died because sweat got in their eyes. But the hunters that had the genetic mutation of hair there for some reason didn't die. So, and then natural selection played its course, and then the people with hair lived, reproduced. Now it's a standard.
But now we're just talking about genetics, though, which is that's just evolution, right? But we're talking,
exactly. That's evolution.
But we were talking about social constructs there for a while.
Kind of. So the math thing is our closest idea to an objective truth that is a social construct that I think we have.
Probably, yeah.
Because math doesn't... Well, now this is where we go Jordan Peterson, is what do you really mean by exist? Math exists, but if what you mean by exists as I can pick it up, this thing here, this exists. This is molecules, this is atoms, this is and whatever's going on at the quantum level. That's exists. Math doesn't exist, if that's what you're talking about. But math does exist, obviously. So like,
yeah, it
gets into that.
It's a measurement. It's a measurement system. That's all it is. Not only just this inch, this 6 inches. Not only that, but like I said, one thing and one thing, two thing. I mean, it's just a measuring system. And I think that, you get complicated with it at, we build houses at 90-degree angle walls and then you can 45-degree this trigonometry and what have you. I don't do math.
Pythagorean theorem. Yeah, math is a super complex construct, and I think it's the closest thing to an objective truth.
But I would say, like I already said it, but I'll say it again. I don't know if it's really fair to it just to call it a man-made social construct. It is, but at the same time, though, it, at least in my opinion, absolutely represents reality. How else can you?
But would you say something that represents another thing, not a construct? Would that, if it doesn't exist in the physical realm, if it doesn't exist in physical space, and it didn't exist before we did, even though the thing that math represents did exist.
I mean, there was no mathematical textbooks before, but there was still one thing, two thing, make two, one thing, make two. That just wasn't a thought of thing. I'm not saying that math as an idea persists before humans or was around before humans.
Right.
So yeah, it as a thing that is cared about. It's like astronomy, right? Like, so you get an astronomer, the first person to ever look through a telescope and see a star far away, and people go, "Oh, I discovered this star." I mean, yeah, but it's been there.
But that's not a comparison. The star exists in physical space. Math doesn't.
I suppose you're right. But I don't know. Okay, let's reel this back in.
Where'd we come from?
What point are we trying to make?
So the reason I went to the does math exist thing, some yes and no, is because you brought up the idea of, we were talking about social constructs.
Yeah.
And us just talking about evolution and genetics. I think this is a genetic discussion. I was using math which is, in my opinion, a social construct, as a representation of objective truth.
Okay, hold on. So what was the original question or original prompt?
So we evolved
Okay.
to... I used math because it's really hard to think of an example. In fact, it's literally, if this is true, literally impossible to think of a physical example. If this is true. So just you're gonna have to somehow meld the math objective truth into something of the physical world.
I can do that. I'm pretty smart.
So if our brains, right, the guy via natural selection, the guy that thought 2 + 2 is 5,
okay.
all the people that in evolution, all the people that had genetic mutations that thought 2 + 2 is 5, what if that was the actual objective truth, but they all died off because it wasn't optimal to our survival? And that's how natural selection works. So now, because of evolution, all of our brains have established this 2 + 2 is 4 premise. Again, nothing to do with actual math. Just take the concept of an objective truth in math and apply it to a physical space. And if that's the case, that our brains evolved to only be able to, I can tell you're still so confused by this.
This is
and so
awful,
am I to a
this
degree.
is an awful example. Like it's awful.
How?
Oh, well, okay. Is your point just that things that are wrong generally equal in death? Because if 2 + 2 = 5 is wrong, and those people
That's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to say. That's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to say. What if the thing that was right equaled in death? So now we've evolved to believe the thing that is wrong because it's best for our survival.
You either said it wrong or I heard it wrong. Because I heard the 2 + 2 is 5 is wrong and those people die, so truth prevails. That's what I heard.
No. What if the 2 + 2 is 5 was right, but they all died off? Because natural selection, and 2 + 2 is 5 was right, but it wasn't optimal for our survival. So evolution took its toll, and natural selection took its toll. And now we've evolved to believe that 2 + 2 is 4 is the right thing, even though it might not be. We've just evolved to believe that it is because it's best for our survival.
I know this is not a math related question. I'm not asking it in a math related.
Did I just say 2 + 2 is 5 again?
I don't know what you said.
I don't know what I said.
I swear to God, you said something wrong earlier, and that's why I was getting so tripped up. But anyway,
I probably said something wrong.
Let me ask this, and I'm not asking this in a math mindset. I'm asking this in general.
Yeah, you just premise everything math related here is not math.
Except it's completely about math, but it's not.
But yeah, it needs to be converted into something of the physical realm as a representation.
But like, can you make this about like a physical attribute? Like you said, eyebrows as an example? Is that... But I guess you couldn't say that because it couldn't use this as a comparison because is having eyebrows correct? It's not a functional
I think it's
thought.
more to do with the world around us rather than us. Like,
so here's my problem with the math example. So 2 + 2 = 5. Let's say that was correct and they all died off. Why? In this example,
dude, it is so. If that is something that is true, it happened hundreds of millions of years ago.
But
it
yeah,
is impossible to speculate
what I'm
on.
saying is, if 2 + 2 = 5 was correct, what
how could that have not been beneficial to our survival?
Yeah, or
is
like
what you're saying,
or it like so they all died and the other ones prevailed. Why? Is there something intrinsic to that causing death? Or is it just? Is it just like dumb luck? Like, what is?
It would be so impossible to know. It'd be so. It's mind-blowingly like color. Do you think color is real?
I mean, kind of.
What if color isn't real, but Like, what if color is fake, but we've just evolved the ability to see color because it's beneficial to our survival?
I
We
mean,
can
that's
see like with other people's.
That's absolutely a physical thing, though. I mean, it's not. I mean, okay. So let's take that example. So color being something we evolve to benefit our survival. I think that's probably true.
Yeah, there's so many survival reasons to be able to see in color.
Yeah,
100%.
So I mean, yeah, if that's all we're talking about is do we develop survival traits to
Exactly. But what if color is wrong? What if color doesn't actually exist?
how is color okay? I mean, color doesn't exist physically. It's an eye thing. We know that. A lot of people, most people know that. But
right. I mean, color blindness is a thing.
yeah, I mean, like objects don't have color. It's how.
But that's I get. It's the closest thing I can get to something of the physical realm that doesn't actually exist, but only is there because we've evolved to see it.
I mean, like I guess. Well, but like just to say is color wrong? I don't think that's helpful at all. I mean, that's all you're saying is that like is that normal? Is that what you're asking? Is that like the normal thing that is because I mean, you can't really say that. I mean, that's our normal, but maybe it's not everybody.
In a universe devoid of human beings, does color exist?
There's no way to know. I think
exactly.
I think it's fair to say that we develop a trait like that for survival's sake. I think that's fair, but there would be no way to know if that's unique to us. I mean, we can look at our own planet potentially, and we know that other animals see color. That's to some extent, or at least I think we know that. Pretty sure I've seen papers on that.
I think there's very different color spectrums.
Yeah.
Some of them I think just straight up maybe don't, but I know like something like dogs, they just have a different color spectrum than us, I think.
Yeah. So the original question, right? So we're talking about things. Say it again. Just just say it again. Because I want to put a good wrapping on this, and I just don't. Because it's been a lot of rambling up until this point of you. I'm just going to throw you under the bus, giving not to no fault of your own, just the fact that it's complicated, bad examples, and then me trying to grapple with bad examples.
I was gonna say let me try to Google this, but I really don't know
how to Google that. It's not really
I don't know how to Google that
sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we evolved to. I can't even say it in a sentence, let alone Google it.
I can't even articulate the thought, let alone.
As you say, this is so hard for me to articulate. Okay, well, I'll say it again. I'll try and make it easier this time for myself and yourself to understand. So, again, color and math is so far my best ideas as a fallback on what is an objective reality here. So, our brains did not evolve to. Our brains didn't evolve for what's true. Our brains evolved for what keeps us alive. So, how do we know what we think is true is actually true and not just the way we evolved because it keeps us alive?
I think the short answer is we wouldn't know. I think we already said that.
Exactly. It would literally be impossible to know. Because if we think something's true right now, for all we know, it might not be true. Our brains just evolved to believe that it is because that's best for our survival, which is the entire argument here.
And I think the long answer is what is true? What even is that?
What is truth?
What is truth? Like, because because I could say, so like we're saying, you know, our experience outweigh the way we view the world versus the truth. In a lot of ways, that is the truth. That's the same thing. That's our truth.
Exactly. Our truth. But is it the same?
Yeah, but what is the truth? That I don't like. That's the thing. What is the truth? If not our truth, what is the truth? That's not a concept. That's not something you can pick apart. We are inherently physically based creatures. Our truth, yes, at least for the most part, to my understanding, is we base our social constructs around the physical world. So if you were to say then, there's our truth, and then the truth is purely physical, devoid of all other ideas and influences, we would then have to align with the truth, at least in some regard, being physically based. But is that even the definition of the truth? Just what is purely physical?
I think that is a very logical deduction of that. I think the fact that due to us being purely physical creatures and we are based on the, you know, we literally have been built up entirely based on the environment around us. And if the environment around us is truth, then we, to some degree, have to be able to identify truth.
Yeah, like, let me say this. Let me just get this out there. You know, here's another thing, right? So, religion, right? If you go up to a religious person and you say, what is the truth? The truth to them is there is let's say Christians, there's a heaven, there's a hell, and then God plays us like puppets. They would probably say that, but you know, in essence, we are under God's dominion, and we are influenced by the Holy Spirit, right? And that is the truth. But our truth, right, in that example, our truth is only what we see, and we don't see that. So our truth would be only what we see physically, and the truth would be God and the Holy Spirit playing puppets with our bodies. Right. So that's just further to prove that there is no way to define the truth. We can only define our truth comfortably, and it is an ever-changing definition, but we can only define our truth, and it's kind of the best we've got.
And I think you just kind of wrapped up the case for that argument.
Yeah.
Is the only truth we have is the truth that we've been evolved to come to understand. And whether that is truth, whether that is the real truth, if we popped out of existence right now and somehow saw the universe as it was, void of, you know, creatures that came from just a blob hundreds of millions of years ago, would that be the same as what we see as truth? Impossible to know. And I think that's this whole argument. It's impossible to know if we've just evolved to see our own truth, and it is impossible to know if that aligns with what is real truth.
I mean, and I don't want to harp on this too much, but it just makes me think of, like, we're talking about this truth versus this truth. What's another way to put that? Okay, so when we're talking about truth, we're really talking about the physical space, right? Because
I think in this context, yeah, the molecules around us.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, granted, the way we categorize and the way we sort of manipulate is unique to us, but the base level understanding is, in my opinion, it would almost have to be equal to objective reality. On a cosmic scale, we're almost certainly wrong.
Knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is a revolutionary idea, but we don't know the things we don't know.
Yeah.
Revolutionary.
I mean, dude, there even on our own planet, atoms are not the smallest thing anymore. Like quantum level things we know exist.
Yeah.
Like we know there's quantum level things there. There's even been some like inkling of a discovery of the possibility of a quantum thing popping out of nothing, which
That's
is
insane.
Unheard of in any sort of physical realm ever. That it breaks what we know the laws of physics to be, because we just straight up don't understand what is going on at the quantum level.
Yeah.
Like atoms are already so freaking small, and quantum is just infinitesimally smaller than that, and we know there's something going on there. Like there's even on our own world, there's so much that we just haven't discovered yet.
I'll say this right now. Whoever asked that question that you asked to cause this conversation, I don't like them. And they're a bad person. And here's why. It's such a human thing. It's such a human thing to be like, oh, but what if it's a different kind of truth? Truth versus truth. Who knows what? We don't even know our own shit. How are we really?
Which I'm pretty sure this was an anti-atheist argument. To which I don't think that this is a trivial. I think you have to be a very, very thought out smart person to even think of something like that. So like, I think that's very.
So you're thinking this was an anti-atheist?
I'm pretty sure this was a.
Was it only anti-atheist, or was it specifically pro-religion?
I'm not sure.
Which, I mean, sure. I don't know why you would be anti-atheist if you were not pro-religion, but I don't know. But
I don't know.
I don't know. Let's just assume that it was somebody trying to argue for divine creation. How do you connect those dots? I mean,
I think you could connect them by way of our ability to reason is flawed because our ability to reason was constructed by evolution, which prioritizes our survival. And if our ability to reason is prioritized on our survival, then our ability to reason against the existence of some sort of divine entity is flawed because it is not beneficial to our survival. Therefore, entity might exist. That's a way that I just connected it in a split second. So,
but I think you're probably right. But that doesn't get us any. That does nothing for the.
That doesn't get that. Not only I would say not if that is. There's probably another way to connect those dots somewhere. But if that is the way that when this question was asked, if that was the way that this was intended to sort of dismantle atheism, I don't think it gets atheism anywhere, but I don't think it gets Christianity or religion in general. It doesn't get anyone anywhere, I don't think.
Because if you're just gonna say, well, religion is maybe even true because we don't know, right?
Correct.
We don't know either.
Exactly. That means we don't know if it's not true or true.
Yeah. Honestly, what that does for me is if, let's say, I was a hardcore atheist and somebody of religious persuasion came up to me and presented that argument to me, it would make me feel less religious. Because I'm gonna be like, okay, so that would mean that religion is a social construct. We know that. As it stands, I'm not talking about if a God actually exists, but the idea of religion, the books and all this is for the most part
the hundreds of the literal thousands of different religions.
Right.
Yeah. They are constructs.
It is a construct of some variety. Right. So now you're just telling me that the way we construct things is inherently flawed. So now I'm going to go in and trust another construct that is more than likely brought about by our own minds that are flawed in this example.
Right. So I think this doesn't help Christianity the same amount that it doesn't help atheism. I don't think it gets anybody anywhere, but I do think it is like I said, I don't want to. I still think that this is just a very interesting, thought-provoking question, regardless of who it was asked from.
Yeah.
Like, I think very good level of thinking outside the box. Maybe it's true. And if it is true, it would be impossible to know if it is or isn't. And if it's not true, we equally would be impossible to know.
That's very kind of you to say to this person.
Dude,
the last 30 seconds of what you just said were basically just like, hey, to the person that said this, thank you for that input. That's great. We'd love to hear it.
Moving on. It got us to talk about it for a while.
Yeah, that was a good damn near 30-minute discussion, I think. So I guess you're right. So I can condemn that line of thought all day long, but I would say two things to that. For one, probing is good. It's good to get new ideas.
Not in the context of alien abductions.
It depends on who you ask, right? But
got me there.
Yeah, I got you. It's good to get new ideas, and the one bit of that with our understandings could be flawed due to survival. I think that's probably true to a lot of extents. I mean, we probably have poor ideas because of certain aspects of how we've developed and how we've progressed through our evolutionary chains, right?
Right.
I just don't think that gets us anywhere closer on the religious debate. And
Right.
I don't think it's particularly helpful because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. And that's I don't want it to like the whole we don't know what we don't know thing. I think that's a pretty common, what's the word I'm looking for? God of the gaps. We don't know, therefore God.
Yeah. Yeah, that is specifically not where I'm going with that.
Yeah, it's because to expand on.
Yeah, that's a lazy argument.
It is. Like we used to think that the Earth was the center of the universe. We realized we orbit around the sun, and the Catholic Church specifically had a real big problem with that.
they said, for real though? Nah.
Yeah. So it took a while for them to come around, but they did eventually. We used to think that angels pushed the stars. We now know that not to be the case. And all this is just examples of God of the gaps. When we still, like, just what I was talking about with quantum earlier, there is so much that we don't understand about our own little planet still, let alone the entire universe.
You know what gives me a lot of stress just to think about? The depths of the ocean. Like, we haven't been to the deepest parts of the ocean, and we know life is there. We know that life exists in those areas, but we don't know what it is. We don't know what that's about.
Pressure. Like, we can't even get down.
Yeah.
Like, it's so. Yeah, it's just so. And to think that it is a good idea to say, yeah, we don't understand, that must be God. It's just so lazy. It is just so lazy.
I was in the church for years. I am all for a religious debate or a religious idea or a conversation about deity, and a respectful one at that. But to just say, how could it not be God? Because look at all this great stuff.
Right.
It's like, okay, first of all, I don't think a lot of this stuff is that great. But
let me give you a really good argument for God. There's a really good argument for God that I heard of. It's called the banana argument.
I like bananas.
And the argument is the banana is perfectly shaped for holding the human hand. Therefore, God.
So is it. I don't know what to. And God doesn't like it when men hold. So, I mean, that's.
Yeah, that's true. When God said, if you have to piss, unzip and do a fucking helicopter. Don't touch that thing.
Yeah. So I mean, fucking hold a banana and that's proof of God. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I think God, I mean, I would say God of the Gaps is a common argument for people that don't know actual arguments for God.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I just think it's lazy. I heard this on, speaking of evolution and our cognition ability, I heard this earlier. This kind of relates to that whole free will determinism thing. So our cognition speed in bits per second, our conscious cognition speed in bits per second in a computer measurement is about 250 bits per second, which is, even compared to a computer, ass tits slow.
Yeah.
Our unconscious cognition speed, measured by neurons,
Yeah.
is 20 million bits per second.
Dang.
So I just thought that was insanely fascinating, because
Well,
given that the whole decision making process, when we're consciously thinking of a decision, the 250 bits of thinking that we're doing is simply trivial compared to the 220 million cognition processes going on in what you're not thinking about.
Right.
I just thought that it kind of just shows a little bit more of the probably free will doesn't exist sort of thing.
I would certainly say that is fascinating. I would reinstate my my statement from the last time we talked about it, which was, it doesn't seem very helpful. But I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's nothing to be, nothing tangible to be withdrawn from that.
Yeah.
But it is very fascinating.
Yeah.
Speaking of the conscious, I recently sent you a video of this guy, Sam Harris. He's big on meditation. I'm a bit of a I mean, you know me. I'm like an anti woo-woo kind of guy. I'm not big on the woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
The only woo-woo that I believe in is consciousness.
What define woo-woo? What are you saying?
Magical nonsense.
Okay, so like crystals and stuff.
Yeah, astrology, things.
You just offended a lot of people.
Well, I hope they are, because if there is anybody listening to this that unironically actually believes in astrology and its implications, and thinks it has an actual factual effect on human birth.
Do you know? Let me give you a reason why astrology is correct. Here.
I need a new co-host.
Yeah. Here we go. Here it is. What happens is somebody says to you at school when you're 10, "Oh my God, what's your sign?" And you go, "I don't know. What are you talking about?" "Oh, it's astrology. It's great. Look it up." And you look it up and you go, "Oh, my traits are I do this, this, and this. That is my personality now." And you make it your personality. And then now for the rest of your whatever life, you've now conformed to this idea because you have the idea that it's correct and you make it correct. It is your confirmation.
Well, we know that when we go searching for something, we will find it.
Yeah.
If we go searching for ways that our personality is like that of our dumbass star sign,
yeah,
we will find it.
Hell, I've looked up mine before and I've resonated with it. I've been like, that seems fairly accurate to my personality. But you know what it also is? Really basic ideas.
Broad strokes, generalizations.
Like,
is what they are.
I believe it or not, we had a thing we were going to do today, but let's just continue on with this conversation.
Well, we should go to this, but I want to come back to this point about meditation too.
So I wanted to just look up Astrology signs. They're gonna start.
I think I'm a Taurus.
Yeah, I believe. Yes, that's
April?
correct. Astrology sign. Let's do traits. Traits.
What are you?
I'm a Cancer.
You are Cancer.
Cancer. So what's your birthday again?
29th April.
Yeah. So you are a
Taurus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Taurus
Describe
traits.
Describe me.
I'm gonna save the best for last. This is just one website, by the way. All right. Homebody. All or nothing. No in between. I would say that's fairly okay.
Those two are pretty. Yeah, those two are pretty close.
Wears the same outfit every day. I don't know about that.
That's not true.
And then hates big changes. And then there's one more.
That is demonstrably false.
Right. And here's the other one.
I am a big proponent of change.
This is the one that made me giggle. This one says, just wants to cuddle.
Nah. Nope. I don't want any of that. I am not a cuddler. Holy cow. So the first two were pretty close. Third one of wearing the same thing every day, not really. Opposing change, demonstrably false. And cuddling, just stratospherically false.
So a Cancer, right? That's me. I am Cancer.
Yeah, describe how you are Cancer.
Okay, so sensitive. Not really.
No.
Can be in certain. Seeks comfort. Maybe. I like to be comfortable, I suppose.
I mean, as much as anybody, I guess.
Forgives but never forgets. I don't think that's true of me.
That's certainly not true.
Only has one boundary, but is very firm. I
would say you have multiple.
I set firm boundaries in quantity with people. Yeah.
They are firm, but there's not only one.
Yeah. Takes on other people's problems to an extent, maybe. That one,
Very context dependent.
Very, very context dependent. That list, for the most part, I would say, yeah, maybe.
Just pick a random one and describe it, and we'll see how similar it is to me.
A random trait, or
Just a random. Say I was born let's say I was born July 8th. In July.
Well,
let's see how well that describes me.
You'd still be a Cancer, so do another one.
Oh, November 3rd.
November. You would be a Scorpio. Okay.
Let's see how well this describes me. I was born November. Let's see how good.
All right. Primary emotion is betrayal. Is that an emotion? Okay, these are stupid. Looks cool in a leather jacket.
What?
Okay, those two are dumb. Okay with uncomfortable silence. That's probably true of you, I would say.
That's true of me. Yeah, that's true. I'm a Scorpio.
Can't be sure if they're serious or joking. That is also true of you.
That is true of me.
Eyes that look into your soul. That's maybe.
Maybe to some people.
I would say, other than maybe
so
the
that
first
one was
two,
about as close to me as a Taurus was.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Two things were correct. Exactly. That's how stupid these stupid things are.
Yeah. So all that to say, so for your example with Taurus, you didn't really resonate with much of that at all. With Cancer,
No.
I would say I, to an extent, resonate with that. But in the sense of that, so many people would.
Yeah, exactly. So many. How many things did we say on that are true of you contextually?
Yeah, exactly. Most of those were.
Now it's probably true of 10 million other people contextually too. It's
I think one of them, I have it. I don't.
That's
have it
how these things
anymore,
are designed.
But I think one of them was can be sensitive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You just described the planet. Great job.
It's like, yeah, okay, if you come up to me and you insult me and you point out all the things I don't like about myself, that's gonna make me feel a little bit sensitive. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, good job. Yeah. So stupid.
Yeah. If you like astrology, feel bad.
Not if you like it, but if you think it's actually true. Like quite a few episodes back, who was it? I don't think there's that many. Who was it that said you might actually think there's something to jinxing? Some woo-woo force that actually has something to do with jinxing?
Yeah, I haven't followed up with them about that, but yeah, it was one of my friends, and yeah, like we were playing a video game or something, and then I said something, and they're like, "Oh, you jinxed it," and I was like, "Oh no," and they're like, "No, really, like for real, like that's a thing, like that's an actual thing," and there is a chance that they were joking, but they said it very, very seriously, and like they were actually a little upset about it, and I was like, okay. Like I think that might have been the launching point for our functional versus factual beliefs, maybe.
That might have been. It might have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you could argue that if I believe something's a given, maybe it'll make me feel complacent or make me be complacent.
But we are that, it is what shot functional versus factual beliefs, because the functional belief is if you believe something's going to happen, it is proven time and time again that it is more likely to happen.
Yeah.
Which is why I brought that up, is because if jinxes are anything, it is a reinforcement, not a negative.
Yeah.
If they are anything. So yeah,
I mean, it's like I mean, I don't know. As an example, I mean, I just gave a video game example, but as another video game example, like I'll be playing with my buddies and I'll be like, all right, lock in. We got this. Let's go. Encouragement. And then somebody will go, oh,
confidence.
But it's yes. Yeah, it's just like, hey, let's get out of the funk. I tell people all the time, what do I say? I say, like, if it's getting really tough, I'll be like, forget that you're bad. Just forget that you suck at this game. You're good now. Let's go. And I don't know if that's actually useful,
right?
But maybe, I don't know.
It's certainly not harmful. Yeah, that's why I said, if anything, it is helpful, and it is certainly not harmful. So this whole idea, if he actually thinks some woo-woo nonsense about jinxing, shame on him.
And we'll get him on the podcast.
Shame.
We'll have him,
and we'll get him on here so yeah, exactly. We'll get him on here so we can stomp his face into the dirt.
Exactly. Now finish your thought.
Back to meditation. The reason I brought this up. So Sam Harris, he's big on meditation. He's an atheist, but I would say he's similar to me in his woo-woo level. He's extremely not woo-woo in believing like woo-woo stuff, but he does believe in consciousness and that we don't understand it and we don't know where it comes from. And we don't know why we have it.
Yeah.
But, so he's also done a lot of psychedelics. And psychedelics I've never done any. I super duper want to at some point. Because they have reportedly just absolutely profound effects on your state of mind and your ability to interpret and see things. Like there was one person that described, I think they took ayahuasca, and they said they couldn't really describe it because famously psychedelics are hard to articulate what you're feeling in the moment. But one way he said it was, when he looked around, he saw the same things that he saw when he wasn't high off of this. But he saw an extra layer that wasn't there to him before, and it was an extra layer of beauty. Like he was looking at trees, and he was seeing the same trees that he saw before he drank it, but he was just seeing the beauty in trees. And how complex and how long they've been there, and all this, just this extra sort of layer that you is hard to appreciate when
Right.
you are of sound mind. So just like that, just the profound ability to reframe your perspective is how I've heard psychedelics described. And Sam Harris is saying that meditation, proper meditation, is the closest thing you can get to psychedelics. And how he's just, I've always not really cared about meditation. I've never thought it was anything special. I've always understood the value of being comfortable in silence with your own thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
I understand the value of that and being able to sort of dig into yourself and evaluate yourself and think about things, just allowing yourself to think without distraction. I've understood the value to that. And that's what I've thought. That's what I've always considered meditation to be.
Yeah.
And Sam Harris here just describes that properly, if it's done properly, it's just not. It's just more than that. It's so much more. And how he's described it is decoupling the sense of self from your consciousness. And how he described this decoupling, because that's hard to really imagine,
Yeah, that's not a thing.
is when you're meditating, when you're in silence, focusing on your breath, you're not thinking about anything. You're not trying. Anytime you think about something, you have to catch yourself, realize you're thinking, and stop and just focus on something that sort of gets you into a flow state, but without external stimulus. So we know what flow states are. Flow states are you are actively involved something without the concept of time kind of just leaves.
Yeah.
So that's what a flow state is. It's flow. You have no sense of time. You have no sense of the kind of your surroundings even. You are just in what you're doing. But if you can achieve a flow state without external stimulus, what does that do? And how he describes this, of getting into this state of meditation, and that's how he would describe, I think, meditation is sort of that state, the void of consciousness of your surroundings and of time, and being in this flow state, except of focusing on a video game or an edit or whatever you're doing. You are focusing on your own consciousness. And he says once you get into this state, once you've mastered the ability to think about nothing, truly clear your mind, he's described it as your self, your sense of self sort of becomes the substratum to your consciousness. It decouples itself. You're taking a step back. You're a layer beneath your own consciousness. You can see your own consciousness, and you can see the thoughts that just kind of appear into consciousness out of nowhere, because we aren't deciding what enters our consciousness.
Right.
When a thought pops in, why, where, what decided that thought would come into consciousness? We don't know. Seemingly nothing. But when our sense of self is one with our consciousness, all it is a thought. That thought is us. We are one with that thought. That thought is us thinking. But it's not, though. Our thoughts are not us, because our conscious thoughts come in from God knows where. Who knows where they come from? My conscious thoughts are coming from some place that I don't understand, in the same way that when you speak to me, your words enter my brain from a place that I don't understand.
Right.
They're both coming into consciousness from nowhere, from miraculous nothing. We don't know where it's coming from. So my own conscious thoughts aren't me any more than your words speaking to me are me, because they're not.
Right.
So if you can decouple your sense of self from your consciousness, you can just sort of see these thoughts entering your consciousness as just what it is, a passing thought. It's not you. It's just a thought passing in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
And being able to decouple yourself, your sense of self, from your consciousness and your thoughts that come from nowhere is, according to him, really beneficial, good somehow.
Well,
I'm not really
So, okay. So this, to me, without knowing much about meditation, and I think you and I's version, if you and I were to meditate, you and I have very similar ideas of how we would approach this, which is just a moment of deep thought.
Right. That's how I've always thought meditation is.
So what this seems like to me, this idea of decoupling the self from the thoughts and all that, it just seems like another way to approach introspection. Instead of thinking about oneself, you are allowing thoughts to enter and with no prior associations, and analyzing the thoughts as they come. But all of that is introspection. Whether or not you intake a thought and internalize it and output a thought, or output a how you think about what you just thought, it's more along the lines of allowing something to pass. And let me put it this way, actually. This is more helpful in terms of like mental health, right? Because this is really beneficial in the scope of mental health. It's very easy
I can see that.
It's very easy for a person to feel bad about themselves and allow the thing that they just told themselves to resonate immediately. And so what I do, because I have those thoughts, I think most people do, I have gotten really good over the years about a thought enters my head, like, you ain't shit, cuh. Like that one. Like, it's like I thought that. Yeah. and then I go, boom, okay, got it. Why am I thinking that? Well,
yeah.
You know,
I do that a lot too.
So, okay, why am I thinking that? Where is that coming from? Okay, well, maybe it comes from this insecurity, or maybe it comes from this nagging sense of I'm not meeting my responsibilities. Maybe I needed to do something today and I didn't, and I'm subconsciously, that's drumming up this anxiety, right? It's stemming from there. That's how I approach meditation. And I think what you're talking about is just another way to do that, another approach at that.
Yeah, because if you were depressed, for example, I think being able to do something like that, being able to decouple your sense of self from your consciousness, realizing that the thoughts that enter your consciousness aren't you. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea of the whole meme of he let the impulsive thoughts win. Yeah. Is like, that's not you. That's not the random nothingness that enters your consciousness. You have no control over any more than you have any control over someone speaking to you and those words entering your consciousness. So your consciousness and the thoughts in it aren't you. And I think being able to decouple your sense of self from that, for someone who has a problem with associating their conscious thoughts with who they are, could be profoundly beneficial. I didn't even think of an idea like that.
That's a thing. That's a conversation that comes up honestly regularly with my girlfriend. She struggles with mental health and having bad anxiety days, and so that's a lot. So a lot of what we work on is like just generally me being a reassuring person. That happens anyway. But then also if we're having one of these episodes, right, where she can't pull herself out of the funk, I'm there to say, okay, why are you upset? And she might say, well, I feel this way about myself. Let's analyze that. Because I think this is true. And maybe this is wrong, but I really do believe this. I think you can't just disregard, right? You need to analyze, not overanalyze, but you need to analyze your internal stream, right? Because it's like an illness, like a physical illness. You can't just ignore it because then the problem festers and it expands. You need to stop, you need to analyze, and you need to, kind of come up with a solution or at least a deeper analysis of the problem. Much like you can't immediately let it go to heart. I think immediately internalizing these negative thoughts is equally as damaging as completely ignoring it. I think it takes a moment of self-reflection to really dig into that. So that's what we work on is, why do you feel this anxiety? And then we tear back the layers. And it usually ends up being something, not to trivialize the problem, because it is a real problem, but it usually ends up being something like, I had a rough day at work yesterday, and it's just general anxiety is bringing out negative feelings in me, or something like that. That's not always the case, but there's a lot of times that it's a traceable idea.
Yeah. So I think you making the comparison of this just being kind of an extra layer to just basic introspection is true. Just being able to see a thought as just that, a passing thought that isn't you. And I used to always think, just kind of, I say I used to always think, but this is honestly something I had never thought about until I had listened to Sam Harris describe how meditation should feel. I used to think that like your consciousness was a part of you. Your conscious thoughts are what you are. That's me. That is, yeah, right. That's my sense of self is my consciousness. It's one and the same. My biological nonsense is my, linked to my consciousness, all that. And after hearing him describe this on how thoughts enter our consciousness, completely decoupled from what we are deciding. We aren't deciding what thought enters the consciousness and what doesn't, any more than, like I keep describing, any more than what you speaking enters, the words you say enter my consciousness.
Yeah.
They are both equally as undecided by myself. So having this reframe of you aren't your consciousness, they are two separate things, and you don't have to listen to your consciousness, is just such, like, meditation. This is the first time I've actually wanted to try to get into that sort of state of flow, but void of stimulus. I actually want to try and do something like that now. Meditation is no longer just sit in a dark room and contemplate your thoughts.
Yeah.
Anymore to me, which I think is, I'm surprised I've never heard anyone describe meditation like that before, because you hear it all the time, like monks and stuff.
The closest I've ever come to an actually like a meditation session, I did this for actually a little bit of time, not long, maybe a couple of months or so. As close as I can to every day, maybe realistically every day, sometimes and every other day if I miss it, but try to every day take a moment, generally in the morning, and just sit with myself. I don't need to, it's not about getting comfortable. And I didn't do like a flow state, but just analyze the thoughts of the day as it comes in, or allow myself to feel, which sounds very woo woo, as you would put it. But because I think a lot of people go through their day repressing feelings to some extent.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like
100%.
So I would at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, whatever it was, sit with myself, allow myself to feel the things that I've repressed. But then before I let it manifest as a positive or a negative for me, analyze why it's happening. And then once analyzed, decide how to proceed based on those decisions I've made or the reactions to my inner thoughts. That is how I have quote unquote meditated in the past. I think it's incredibly beneficial. I don't think it's for everyone.
See, that's the thing. Harris also mentioned, like, depending on who you are, for someone like me who is extremely logically, materially minded, it would probably be pretty difficult. He said it could take 5 minutes and it could take 5 days on a silent retreat. Yeah. To sort of enter this state on your own, because it's not like even just normal ass flow states. I am always very conscious of the things around me and like how much time is flowing by and stuff like that. It is really hard for me to enter a state where I am that focused. Very hard. So to do something like that void of any stimulus would be even harder. So I don't think I'm of the demographic that this would be easy to do. Right. But I would still want to at least try.
Yeah, I would argue it would not be easy for me either. I mean, I am very always aware of my physical self. I mean, that's why I have personal side note. I have a lot of trouble sleeping at times because I'm very hyper fixated on just the physical state. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel discomfort easily at times. I don't know. Or like, I'm very like, I don't know. It's very difficult for me to really slip under that, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't know what that is.
Get out of your own self, basically.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So like when it comes to sleeping, I have to very intentionally, like it's a thought. I have to very intentionally think, turn the brain off. Don't be thinking about, obviously a lot of people think about their day or whatever when they're going to sleep. Got to get that out of there. I also am very like cognizant of my body and like certain like pains I might have, and I just can't let that go at times. That's very difficult. Right. That keeps me awake. So I think a meditation application would also be very difficult because of that.
Right. Yeah, that's same reasons for me. And have you ever heard of, you know who what's his name? Andrew Huberman. Yeah. He does this, he promotes this thing called non-sleep deep rest.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Yeah,
I think to a small extent.
I think we have to a small extent. And to be honest, I don't know. I've never looked into it. I don't know what these procedures are, but it is a way of, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's deep rest. It's about as restful as a state as you can get in without sleeping. Non-sleep, but deep rest. I think trying to maybe looking into what practices he's doing or promoting to sort of enter this non-sleep deep rest state to try and do something like go to sleep could probably be beneficial. Yeah. Well, like I said, I've never looked into it, so I don't even know what it entails, but it could be beneficial.
I think that's probably true.
But speaking of nothing at all, I also wanted to mention this. Skate 3, amazing game.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a new Skate game coming to early access next year.
Really? Is it gonna be Skate 4?
I don't know. I just heard new Skate game coming to early access in 2025. That is all I know. And if that's true, maybe we could use a quick Google search just to fact check me there. But
Skate 4 will be released in early access sometime early 2025.
Early 2025.
That's what it says.
So probably within the first 6 months. So that's even more exciting. So we might not have to wait very long for a new Skate game.
Wait, what? Upcoming free-to-play game, Skate 4, has been retitled Skate and coming out 2025. Oh, are they going to do a...
They're going to do a live service game.
Oh, God.
If they're removing the 4 and just calling it Skate and it's going to be free, it's going to be live service. 100%. You're going to be able to... I can see it now. You're going to be able to buy different skateboard decks and different wheel colors. I can see it now.
Oh, well, it was a good run while we had
Shoot. You know, I mean, it could still... I don't want to be too pessimistic. I think we know something...
I play some free-to-play games.
I was going to say...
They can be all right.
We know something like that's probably coming, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game. But I think we do know that it probably isn't going to live up to Skate 3.
No, probably not.
Is that even possible? I don't know. But, well, let's wrap this up. Let me tell you something. We went into this episode with... We had a list of absurd trolley problems that we were going to solve. And now maybe we'll save it for next episode. We'll see. But we never got to that, and we're already an hour deep.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for later. Appreciate you watching and or listening to some real... That one got deep. That one got real deep.
That was a deep discussion for people that are not qualified. But
correct.
Qualified or unqualified, it was a good discussion nonetheless.
Good discussion. Yeah. So, like I said, like the video if you're watching. Also, rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I will say, of the ratings we have on Spotify, the typical rating is 5 stars. So if you want to be like the rest of the pack of 2 people right now, rate it 5 stars.
Yeah.
Comment on YouTube if you're watching. Let us know what you want to see or hear. We'll do it. Literally anything.
Yeah, give us ideas.
We'll probably do it. We'll do just about anything.
Give us ideas, and I think we said this like earlier on, but like if you give us a suggestion and we like it and we use it, we'll give you a shout out. Frick,
dude. Yeah, we'll post your comment.
Post your comment. Boop. Yeah.
A shout out from a 9 subscriber channel really means a lot,
dude.
Don't you know? All right, we'll see you next week.
See ya.